Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg in Las Vegas. Hank, another great night for you. And I got to tell everybody that you're on the CBS Sportsline show, and you're picking winners on there as well. So anybody tune in there and see you. I don't know what days you're on, but you might.
Well, it varies. I'm on twice a week. I'm on every Saturday morning at 8:30 our time out west, and I think I'm doing Tuesdays now because there's such a heavy college basketball schedule, and I'm doing the new football league stuff for them.
Right, right. And how does everybody feel about that league? Are they optimistic?
Yeah, it got a very good reception everywhere. All the shows seem to like it. Like the Fox people like it. It's on major networks. It's on the NFL Network. It's on CBS Network, and they got their first string announcers doing the games. And I noticed that the former coach of the Bengals was doing one of the games last weekend. So the NFL's behind it, and they have real good coaches. I had a long talk yesterday with Dennis Erickson, who's coaching Utah, and I got some good information out of him. And I'll tell you what's interesting about this league is how they stock the teams. They were forced to go regional, which put some of these teams at a disadvantage, and some at a big advantage. For example, Florida, Steve Spurrier's got 26 Florida players on his team. Dennis Erickson in Utah has 26 Utah players. The regional aspect of it, the San Diego team had to go with teams from Southern California, which isn't necessarily an advantage. San Antonio has had to take a bunch of Texas teams, but on the other hand, Birmingham took a bunch of guys from Alabama. The Atlanta team is messed up, although you would think with the Georgia, they have Murray, the quarterback from Georgia, but their offensive coordinator quit in the middle of the week. So, and I don't like the coaching staff that much, but and when you're handicapping the games, you might want to consider that.
Well, the lines are, I don't know if you've seen them, but the lines came out now for this week.
I have not seen them yet.
I can tell you what they are. The Salt Lake Stallions are playing at Birmingham Iron, and the Iron are 6.5. Arizona Hotshots at Memphis Express. The Arizona team is a road favorite, 10.5-point favorite. And on Sunday, Orlando, how do you say that word? Apollos, or I guess, I'm not sure how you say that word.
The Orlando what?
The Orlando Apollos. How do you say that? Apollos?
I don't know.
Apollos? Something
Courier.
Like, yeah, they're, let me get this off the screen here. They're 6.5-point favorite at San Antonio Commanders or Commandos.
Yeah.
And Atlanta Legend playing at San Diego Fleet. The Fleet are 9.5. So they just came out. Those numbers just hit the board at an offshore book. So they're early numbers, and they have not been played into yet. And I would...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there are a lot of big bettors weighing some of these numbers too much. But they're early numbers, though, and some of them might be wrong.
I'm sure they are.
A good opportunity for people who know what they're doing.
Exactly. Well, there's only one book that has them. But the thing about that is, anybody betting $500 is going to move the number, because they're not taking big bets on these games, so they're taking a lot of little bets, so little bets will move the number. So they'll be very volatile. And like you said, if you really know...
No, the offshore companies are not taking big bets at all.
No.
I think they've got like $300 limits.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, we have a huge basketball card tonight. It's typical. The NBA, of course, is heading towards its All-Star break. Last night, Hank, we saw a game, Louisville up 23 points. And they lost. And
yeah, they were up 23 points with 5 minutes to go.
I know. That's shocking that you could blow that big of a lead or make that big of a comeback. Shocking.
Well, I was watching that game, and Duke could not have played worse until the last 5 minutes. They were 2 for like 19 from 3 points. They were missing layups. They were not defending well. They just looked like, and you know, I knew their plane, excuse me, had gotten in. There was a delay getting there the night before, you know, so they got in at midnight. You know, they should be able to handle that. But anyway, so they, but Coach K let them rest the next day. But they, all their players, nobody was playing well on that team. Not any one of their stars. Missing shots, missing easy shots. And, you know, you just looked at it and you resigned the fact that they were going to get beat because Louisville is not a bad team. And, you know, they had one guy who was hitting baskets all over the place, and they had no answers for him. And Coach K took the team aside with just a few minutes to go, and he said, "I coach winners." That's all he said to them.
Wow.
All of a sudden, they woke up, and the other team just collapsed. As soon as the game got to within 10 points, you knew that Louisville was done. They couldn't do anything. Everything they had done well up to that point, they stopped doing. Couldn't hit a basket. Couldn't get to the rim. They were getting shots blocked all over the place. Duke all of a sudden woke up, started playing defense, started hitting baskets from all over the place, and you know, all of a sudden, you know, the game was tied, and not only that, but Duke was drawing fouls, and so the clock was stopping, and so they were, you know, Louisville made every mistake it could make. It was an amazing game, and so Duke will retain its number 2 ranking.
Well, that is amazing. We saw the Wisconsin game against Michigan State, and I know you had the winner in that game.
I had the under in that game.
Oh, okay, you had the under. Wisconsin is...
Well, that's a winner, the under, yeah.
The Wisconsin is a terrible free throw shooting team. I mean, their leading guy was 0 for 6 at the line. I think they hit 5 out of 18 free throws in the game. I mean, that is, for a big-time school that's supposed to be well coached, that is a terrible statistic.
Well, a lot of these teams are not very good shooting free throws, including Duke. They don't shoot free throws very well. But they made them when they counted down the stretch. But that's true. I said on the pick that I did for that game that I wasn't crazy about the game, but I thought Michigan State is starting to get them back together again after a little bit of a slump. And I didn't like the game that much, but I thought it would be extremely tough physical game because that's the way these two teams play. And I like the under very much in that game, and that would be my play. So, you know, that worked out for me. The games that I lost yesterday, for transparency purposes here, Purdue surprised me. Maryland, you know, is an up-and-down team, but when they're on their game, they're tough. And Purdue, which has been playing very well recently, I think they've won 6 or 7 in a row, they lost. I had them. I had Boston College over Pittsburgh, which was the winner. Davidson was my under the radar game, and the rest of it was fine, with the under Michigan. Michigan had another bad game against this time Penn State, winning their third game recently, and I didn't use that game. And Kansas State was my best bet. They're playing very well right now. They're going to be a tough postseason team.
They really are. And I'm a little bit surprised at how Kansas has bounced back and is playing better again. Even though they've had those injuries, they seem to have been able to put their squad back together and get some chemistry going.
Well, he's gone to his younger guys, and he's got a couple of young guards who are playing very well right now, and that's what spurred them up. As far as Kansas State is concerned, last time they played Texas, they didn't have Dean Wade and they didn't have Ken Stokes, who both played in this game. And since they got those two guys back healthy, they've been really tough.
Yeah, Texas played pretty well early in that game. They got a nice lead, and then Kansas State came back and took it away. That was a good game to watch. I did watch that. And LSU played very tough at Kentucky. They did a hell of a job knocking off.
They outplayed them.
Yep, they did. And
excuse me, Kentucky didn't play bad. And, considering that game was on the road, LSU played very well. But they're a good team, and they're big, and they can get inside. They can protect the rim pretty well, and they can run the floor, and they can. They were making their open shots, and this was not a case where Kentucky, although you could make the case that Kentucky was going to be caught looking ahead because they got Tennessee coming up, but Kentucky didn't play that bad.
Yeah, speaking of Tennessee, they play South Carolina tonight, 15-point favorite in that game. And they, of course, have Kentucky coming up on Saturday. So that's a big potential look-ahead spot for Tennessee. And of course, Tennessee has been, all year, they've been playing lights out. It's been a very tough team. So the potential look-ahead spot there. Of course, Kentucky could have been caught looking ahead too, but I don't think they'd look past LSU. LSU just played a great game.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a factor that people considered going into that game, but they played well, and they almost won the game, and they were upset about a call where the ball was on the rim, and it was a play that went against Kentucky just recently, and Calipari made a big point of how inconsistent the officiating is, where it goes against them one time, like last night, and went for them in a game they won recently. And he thought the officials really blew that call, and the announcers agreed.
I watched that game, and I watched that play, and I think that it definitely should have been waved off. What I don't understand is they can review a charging call, but they can't review a basket interference or call. I don't get why they can't review one play and they can review another. I don't understand that.
Well, the coaches are going to get behind that,
and they should. Yeah, because that clearly made a difference. I mean, charging calls. I don't think anybody ever gets those calls right, whether they go one way or the other. That's the most confusing play in the world.
Well, that's a bang play, and so they look at those, and those are tough calls sometimes. I don't envy the officials having to make those calls because they happen so fast. Where the guy's moving and he gets to get into a certain area, and there's a lot of elements to those charging calls.
It's almost unfair to the officials. They're not always in position to see those calls clearly because there's other big players in the way. I mean, it's a very difficult call to make. I'm not even sure about whether that call should be in existence. I don't really. I think it's 50-50 process whether they get it right or not. Kind of crazy.
Well, that's like saying pass interference shouldn't be in existence. I mean, it's part of the game, and it's part of defense, and part of defense is getting in a position to take a charge, and it's a good defensive play if you can make it. And I totally disagree that it shouldn't be in existence. It's always been a part of basketball.
Well, I understand that, but I think the officials are in a very awkward situation trying to make that call correctly. I think they.
Well, it's not an easy call. Like I said, it's it happens very fast, but they have replay for that, and they take time to make sure they get it right. I don't have a problem with it as long as they get it right.
That's true. I agree with that part. Any other games you want to talk about this evening? I know the NBA is very confusing.
Something. The NBA is. Last night Golden State played Utah. They didn't cover. Utah's playing pretty well right now. The team that's really been the talk of the insiders who follow the game closely and the coaches is Denver. That coach is a candidate for Coach of the Year. Last night's Boston-Philadelphia game was kind of tough to figure. Boston won without their top player. That's why I don't play NBA until they get to the playoffs. It's just too tough unless you're playing against the Knicks every night.
Yeah, that's. I don't know how many in a row they've lost, but they've been pretty bad.
17.
17. Wow. And Philadelphia's coming off that embarrassing loss last night to Boston. They lost to Boston without Kyrie. I don't know. Boston seems to play pretty well when Kyrie isn't in the lineup for some reason.
Their record's better.
Yeah. It definitely is. Golden State bounces back tonight. They go on the road, 3-point favorite at Portland. But, I think Golden State is just playing well enough to get through the year and then get serious when they get to the playoffs. And that's one of the problems in handicapping the NBA. These teams they kind of just get through the season. As long as they get in the top 8 in each division, they're in the playoffs, and they don't give a darn for an entire game. It's hard to find a team that plays an entire game. Anything coming up this weekend that you're looking forward to?
Well, it's football. I'll be interested to watch those games and see how those teams develop. Dennis, his quarterback got hurt last week, the Utah quarterback, although they have another guy who can play. They have a very strong running game, and they have a very good defensive line. Their front four on defense is very good. And they got off to a bad start last week, but they didn't quit on them. And this is their second game in a row on the road. But they've got the former running back from the Vikings who's good. And it's funny, the receivers coach for Utah. He used to do my radio show in Miami for 2 years. And, he was a regular during the college football season. And so when I called the PR department there and left a message, and it was Dennis who called me back. And he said, your old radio partner's here. He's my wide receivers coach. He wants to know how you're doing. That was great. But he was very honest about his team. He said that, they're shorthanded in some areas, but he told me the areas where they were strong. And, and he said this is their second game in a row on the road, and their practice facility has been slow getting done. And, a lot of things are new in this league, so that's what makes it tough to figure out how these teams will do. His team will get better as the year goes along because he's a good coach. And And he's got two good quarterbacks who can, two guys who can play, but he'll miss the top guy this week. He went out early last week and took a while for the second guy to get going. And of course, he's had a week of practice this week with the regulars. So I think, we swapped cell phone numbers, and we're going to talk a lot during the season. Atlanta's a mess. Coyle, I don't know about him as a coach, but he lost his coordinator last week. Murray is not a bad player, the quarterback, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence in them. And, San Antonio is going against Spurrier. And, Spurrier's loaded. He's got a playbook full of gimmicks, and he's pulling them out the bag for this league. He wants to show people he can coach at age 73. The old ball coach is getting old. But last week they were the one team that rang up points last week. They had 40. The team that in Arizona is supposed to be one of the better teams. Memphis has got nothing. And I don't know, Birmingham is, got a lot of talent on their team. So, oh God, Chris Russo's coming on. Oh, it's a guy imitating Chris Russo. Let me turn that off. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Anyway, San Diego should not be 9.5 points over anybody as bad as Atlanta is. March has, he's got that offense that he used when he coached the Rams. He can't coach it with these guys, and he doesn't adjust. And last week they looked horrible, and defense is not their bag at all. And they're playing an Atlanta team that actually has some skilled guys. I mean, they've got a quarterback who can play. That'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, there's going to be a big learning curve between week 1 and 2, as these players get, they actually have a game under their belt. It's interesting. I'm not going to get too involved. Last week, the home teams and the favorites all covered, and all games went under except for one. One game went over. So I don't know if that pattern will continue, but I think you'll start to see some major changes as they get more playing time, coaching time, and settle on the players. It's a big opportunity for these coaches and for the players. Sometimes it's a second chance for some guys, and probably a final chance for some guys. And
these coaches are not going anywhere. They've signed up with this league, and unless a couple of them may go back to get some good college jobs. But Mike Martz is not going to get a coaching job in the NFL again. Spurrier's 73 years old, and he can coach this, but he's not looking to do much else but play golf. After the season's over. But there's some players to look at. The interesting element of this league is they had a lot of kicks, and there was only one missed field goal. These guys are coaching for jobs. They're going to get hired, these kickers.
Hank, who's the best quarterback so far out of these teams that you've seen?
Well, Woodruff is good, but he got hurt. The guy, the best quarterback I saw was the guy who's playing for New Eisel. I'm trying to remember. Woodruff and Travis Knight are the two quarterbacks for that team, for the Utah team, and they're pretty good. The Orlando quarterback is good. He's probably the best. Gilbert, remember him?
I do remember him. Yeah.
He's good. And there was one other guy who was good. The Arizona quarterback, Wolford. Wolford's good, Wofford rather, but he's got a giant receiver in Ross, who's a good guy to throw to, and that's going to make him look pretty good. The quarterback for San Diego is not good. But there was one good guy in the one game that I watched, and it was one of the teams in the Southeast. It was in Memphis.
I know who you're talking about, and I can't. The name won't come to me. I know who you're talking about, but it's slipping my mind right now. I guess
I don't like Perez, the guy from Birmingham, that much. He's kind of a little out of control. And San Antonio has a good guy named Greg Ward, who's a converted guy. San Diego was counting on having Josh Johnson, and then he decided not to play, so they've got this guy Bercovici, but he didn't look good.
No, Bercovici did not look good last week. No, he did not. Hank, we're running a little long. We're at the 28-minute mark, and I want to tell everybody Hank's plays and mine are jimfeist.com. Hank, we'll pick it up again on Friday, and good luck the rest of the week. Thank you.
Okay, you too, Jim.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Hank.